Hello and welcome to one and all. So in today's class, we will check out the next industrial policy resolution, that is the IPR 1991. And from the board exam point of view, this is a very important 10 marks question. And apart from that, it is a very major industrial policy resolution announced by the country, because it totally, the pattern of industrialization in our country changed totally through the announcement of this industrial policy resolution. Okay, so again, this one was announced by the Congress government. So the Congress government announced a new industrial policy on 24th July 1991 under the Prime Ministership of Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao. And our ex-Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, he was the Finance Minister. And Dr. Manmohan Singh as the Finance Minister. So Dr. Manmohan Singh was the responsible for this IPR 1991. Okay. So the main feature of this policy or the LPG model of growth or liberalization, privatization, and globalization. That is LPG model of growth. So this was announced through the 1991 industrial policy resolution, which was the main turning point of our pattern of industrialization in our country. Okay, so coming to the main features, detailing main features of IPR 1991. So towards the goal of liberalizing the economy, what were how the government proposed to do the LPG model of growth in the country. So the first one, what the government did was abolition of industrial licensing. So what is the meaning of abolition of industrial licensing? That means it is for most of the industries, getting the license from the government it's not compulsory, in the sense that it will be automatically issued by the government. They need not have to wait for a long period of time to get the licenses. So many industries, they were removed from that compulsory licensing from the government. So they can, private sector, they can easily set up their businesses. So that is the meaning of abolition of industrial licensing. So what happens normally, if the private sector wants to establish any unit or establish any industry, they have to wait for a long period of time to get the approval from the government. So that is not there as of this 1991 policy. So they did not have to wait for a long period of time. And I mean, that licensing is not made compulsory, even in the sense that it will be automatically approved by the government. So it was easy for the private sector to start their units, to start their industries. So only for certain industries, the government made it compulsory. Obtaining licenses from the government is compulsory. For all the remaining units, it is not compulsory. So initially in 1991, the government made 18 industries to get the compulsory licensing. So only these 18 industries, they have to get the compulsory licensing from the government. And later in 1999, the government removed some of the industries from this also. So the amended. So as of 1999, only 6 industries were required to obtain the compulsory licensing from the government. Okay, so let us check out what are all those 6 industries. So that is the meaning of abolition of industrial licensing. So the new industrial. So even today, this policy is considered as a new industrial policy. Okay. So the new industrial policy abolished, that means removed, abolished industrial licensing for all industries except for the following 6 industries. So only these 6 industries, they have to obtain license. So this is as of February 1999. So now even this also, from this 6 industry also, as of now, it is 25 industries they are supposed to get the license. But anyway, as per your textbook, 6 industries are only required to get the license from the government. So they come under the category of they are alcohol, cigarettes, hazardous chemicals. Hazardous means dangerous. Hazardous chemicals, drugs and pharmaceuticals, move to the next page. Electronics, aerospace, and defense equipment, and industrial explosives. So only these industries are supposed to obtain compulsory licensing from the government. All the other industries can be established without that mandatory licensing or the approval from the government. So that is the, so more liberalized. It was more easier for the private sector to establish their own industries. So this is what is liberalization. Okay. So that is the first feature of this policy. The second, the most important one, what is the role of public sector now? So if you remember, starting from 1956 policy, the public sector was playing a very, very dominant role. So now that role is diluted. When it was in 1956 policy, it was concentrating. So there was concentration of public sector, but now in this policy, it is diluted. Not that much role is given to the public sector. So if you remember the number of industries that was given to the public sector, Schedule A, it was 17 industries under the public sector through IPR 1956. But now there are only 3 industries that are reserved for the public sector. So that is the number of industries reserved for public sector. So reserve of public sector reduced from 17. So through it was IPR 1956, it was 17, isn't it? To only 3. Okay. So 3 industries were reserved now for the public sector. So they are, first one, arms and ammunitions. Second is atomic energy. And the third one is rail transport. As of now, only atomic energy and rail transport is reserved for the public sector. When the arms and ammunition is also not reserved for the public sector. But anyway, whatever is given in your textbook. So only 3 industries are reserved for the public sector. All the others are removed from the monopoly of government. Okay. And then apart from that, regarding the operation and the administration of the public sector units, also the government has made so many changes because they are incurring continuously, they are incurring losses. So many changes have been made regarding the administration and the continuation or the way the public sector should operate. So many changes have been made through this policy. Okay. So what are all the, so going to that, the main elements of government policy towards public sector undertakings. That is PSUs are, first one, bring down government equity in all non-strategic PSUs to 26% government equity, 26% or even lower. If it's necessary, you can bring down even 26 below 26% of the government equity. That means what? The shareholding of the government should be reduced from, it was 100%, isn't it? So the exclusive monopoly of the state, that means for 17 industries were exclusive monopoly of the state. So that means for 100% shareholding was from the government. So now that was the concentration, but now it has been diluted in the sense that all the non-strategic, that is not very extremely important areas, extremely important projects or industries of the public sector. So in all those industries, the government shareholding should be reduced from 100% to even to minimum of 26%, or sometimes if it is not necessary to have even 26%, it has to be further reduced below 26%. So why this specification 26% is only if the 26% shareholding is there with the government, then only can the board of meeting, the government will, I mean, whichever partner, if they're having the 26% shareholding, then only they will be able to vote in the board of meeting. So for that reason, all the non-strategic, that is not very important, not very essential for the government to operate those kind of projects or those kind of industries, then the government shareholding should be reduced from 100% to 26%. Even if 26% is also not required in those industries, the government voting is not required. In those industries, it can be brought down to even below 26%. So the remaining 74% can be of the shareholding of the public sector, we have to be disinvested, can be handed over to the private sector. So that is the first feature of the I mean, what are all the policy towards the public sector by the government. So that is the first one. Then the second one is restructure and revive potentially viable PSUs. So restructure and revive potentially viable PSUs. This I have explained to you. We have seen the same thing in the 1980 policy. What was the policy of the government for the towards industrial sickness? So whichever I mentioned, I explained to you what is the meaning of this potentially viable PSUs. So that is merging the one sick unit with the another public sector unit which are sound, which are healthy. So that is the restructuring. So whichever sick unit which can be run with a which can be operated with a little bit of assistance from the government, and those kind of public sector units have to be restructured in the sense maybe in the form of merging the sick unit with the sick viable public sector unit with the healthy unit. That is the second policy. And then the third one is close down PSUs which cannot be revived. So that means what? There are certain units, even with the whatever the government does, whatever is being done, even with a sufficient amount of financial assistance also, they cannot function properly. They will, they will continuously incur losses. So there is no point in continuing those kind of public sector undertakings. So it is better to close down all those public sector units. So but whatever the companies that can run, they have to be merged. Those sort of companies have to be restructured. If any company is found that whatever is being done, those sort of public sector companies, they cannot run, they will continue to incur losses. So instead of running those kind of loss-making units, it is better to close down all those public sector units. Okay, so that is the policy then. And then in all these cases, it is the necessity for the government to fully protect the interest of the workers. So if the government restructures, if two units are merged, or if the government closes down the public sector undertakings, what will happen? The workers will lose the job. No? So something has to be done by the government to fully protect the interest of workers. Okay. So some financial compensation or some alternative employment, something has to be done so that the workers will not be deprived of their employment opportunity. Okay. So that is the meaning of this, fully protect the interest of the workers. So now you are witnessing, isn't it, what is happening in the tech companies. So starting from Twitter to everybody, they are closing down, and only workers are they're losing their job. The same thing was happening when the government was adopting this LPG model of growth through 1991 policy. So whatever happens, the workers' interest has to be protected. They have to be financially compensated. Okay. So that is the meaning of this. And then another thing what the government is, the government appointed a board known as the Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction. So what that is, the government will also review means periodically check, review the existing public enterprises in low technology, small scale, and non-strategic areas. So these are all still the government is having certain industries which are of not very important ones. Important ones in the sense that it is not necessary for the government to run those kind of industries, because they are of low technology, and they are all small scale, and they are all the non-strategic ones. So these kind of industries can be handed over to the private sector. But so that's why the government will periodically review the working of these kind of companies. So if under this category, if any units is found to be sick, so sick units, so in all these low technology, small scale and non-strategic areas, if any unit is found to be sick, so they will be referred to, so the sick units, they will be referred, the government appointed a board known as to the Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction. BIFR for rehabilitation. Rehabilitation means whether those kind of companies with any amount of financial assistance, whether they can survive or not. So it is the responsibility of the board to advise the government which sort of companies, the sick public sector companies are potentially viable, which are of the public sector companies which cannot be revived. So this board will advise the government. So potentially viable will be restructured, that is, they will be merged. So the potentially that cannot be revived, those kind of public sector companies will be closed down. Okay. And after doing this, whatever the company which are remaining with the public under the public sector. So for enterprises remaining in the public sector, what the government proposed to do is, it is stated that they will be, move on to the next page. So they will be provided a much greater degree of management autonomy. Management autonomy. So what is a greater degree of management autonomy? That means whatever the industry that are remaining under the public sector, the healthy units which are remaining under the public sector, so they will be given greater degree of management autonomy. That means what, the government will not interfere in all the managerial decisions. Actually, what is happening in our public sector is they are not free. The managerial level, the board of directors, the managers, they are not free to make their own decisions. In each and every decision making thing, the government will interfere. But now that is liberalized now. So the government will not interfere. So the managers of the public sector company, they can make their own decisions. So that is a greater degree of management autonomy through the system of, there is something called as the Memorandum of Understanding. This MOU. So there is an understanding between the concerned public, whatever the public sector, and also the Ministry of Industries of that particular state. So wherever the public sector is operating, so there will be an understanding between the management of the public sector and the concerned Ministry of Industries of that particular state. So that is the Memorandum of Understanding. So what is that Memorandum of Understanding? As long as the public sector is running profitably, that is, it is not falling under the sick category, then the government will not interfere in the affairs, the day-to-day activities of that public sector undertaking. So that is the Memorandum of Understanding between the public sector which are remaining and the Ministry of Industries. Okay. So through this way, the government made an understanding. The government will not interfere in the day-to-day activities of the public sector, as long as the public sector is making profit, so that public sector will have the greater management autonomy. Okay, they can have their own independent decisions. So that is the this is the way, these are all the policies towards the existing public sector in the country. Okay, that is the second feature. So now you can understand that from 17 industries, it has been reduced to 3 industries. That is one thing. And whatever the industries which are non-strategic, the government shareholding will be reduced from 100% to 26%, or if it is necessary, even lower. And whatever the potentially sick industry, viable industries will be merged by through restructuring. If it cannot be revived, those kind of industries will be closed down. And whatever the remaining healthy industries in the public sector, through the memorandum of understanding between the public sector and management, as well as the Ministry of Industries, the government will not interfere, and the public sector will have the greater decision making powers. Okay, that is the management autonomy. So these are all the policies towards the public sector. And the third changes which were made by the government is in the area of MRTP Act. If you remember, the full form of MRTP Act is Monopoly Restrictive and Trade Practices Act. So what the government had done, the MRTP Act has been amended to remove the assets limits in respect of MRTP and dominant undertakings. Undertakings or companies. Okay, now the meaning is, so this is MRTP Act, monopolies. So it's for information, monopolies and restrictive trade practices act. So this act was passed by the government in 1969-70. So under this act, any company which is assuming the monopoly power, under the private sector. So like for example, if they are more than 100 crores investment, more than 100 crores, already they are having 100 crores investment in plant and machinery. And if they want to expand their business further, that is one thing. And the second thing is, or already they are having, they have 25% of market share. So if any private sector company, if they are found to be already having 100 crores of in-plant investment, or already they're having the 25% of the market share, and if these companies want to expand their business further, so because they're already a monopoly, so if these kind of companies, if they want to expand, they will be referred to a commission known as the monopolies. The government appointed a commission known as the Monopolies Inquiry Commission. So this commission will review whether to give the permission for these kind of companies to expand or not, because they are already the monopoly companies, very big companies. So why should they expand further? So this Monopoly Inquiry Commission will check whether to give the permission or not, or in other ways, by through this act, this is what is being done. This was in 1969-70. Okay. So that means that is the limit. So here what it is given, MRTP Act has been amended to remove the asset limits. So now this act is, the Monopolies Act is not there. That means what? To remove the asset limits means even after having 100 crores also, they can still continue to expand in MRTP and dominant companies. So that's why the government has removed that asset limit. Asset limit was once upon a time 100 crores or whatever, this 25% of the market share. So now that has been removed. That means what? The private sector undertakings, they can further expand even though they are having the 100 crores investment, even though they are having the 25% of the market share. So in that way, the government has liberalized the expansion policy towards the private sector undertakings. So in the this thing, company, by government announced something called as by the government replaced the MRTP Act. By replacing the MRTP Act with the more liberal Competition Act. So instead of MRTP Act, now it is the Competition Act, it is more liberal to the private sector. So as long as whatever the operation that is done by the private sector is not affecting the general public, it is not injuring the general public, the government will not take any action against the private sector. So that is the Competition Act. So they can continue to expand. So that is the meaning of the that is the policy towards the big monopoly companies in the country. So now you can see that how much freedom has been given by the government towards the private sector, to the private sector. That is liberalization. Okay. Then free entry to foreign investment and technology. If you remember, right from the beginning, the Congress government, they always wanted to restrict the foreign capital only to the extent of 49%. I mentioned to you, isn't it? Now, this restriction is also being removed. And foreign investment comes along with foreign technology. It is not foreign investment from one country, foreign technology from another country. Whichever company from the, whichever country is investing in our country, so that investment comes along with the technology, because they will insist that we will use only their technology. Okay. So the government, so that's why free entry. So the government encouraged. So instead of restricting foreign equity, the government is now encouraging. So the government encouraged foreign direct investment that is FDI, and technology in core, very main core infrastructure and other 34 high priority industries. So the one is the main infrastructure, core infrastructure, and also the government identified certain high priority industries, 34 high priority industries the government has identified, which requires the sophisticated technology and huge amount of investment. So in those areas, the government will allow the foreign investment more than 49%. That is the meaning of this industries. Through automatic route. That means so automatically the foreign investment will be approved by the government. So through automatic route, so if we continue here, through automatic route, so this in some of the industries, it is 26% foreign direct investment. Some of the industries, or even the insurance, like that, everything. So some of the areas, it is 49% is allowed. Some of the industries, 51% is allowed. Some of the industries, 74% of the foreign direct investment. And in some of the industries, even 100% foreign direct investment is being allowed now by the government. Okay. So these are all the areas which, what you say, very priority, which cannot run without the foreign assistance. So those kind of industries, those kind of projects, the government is allowing the automatic approval of foreign direct investment. So from the earlier, position of not allowing more than 49% foreign direct investment. Now the government has gone even to allowing the foreign direct investment even to the extent of 100%. Okay, so this is the policy towards foreign investment and technology. So that's how there is free entry of foreign investment and technology in the domestic enterprises. Okay, so still some more points are there, and there are also certain criticisms. There are both the positive effects as well as the negative effects of this, so which I will explain to you in my next class. Okay, so I repeat again, this is one of the most important questions asked in the board exam. So go through it, and if you find this video useful, please like, share, and also subscribe. If you have any doubts or suggestions, please mention it in the comment box. Okay, so until my next class, take care. Bye bye.